Hey guys, okay, so something happened yesterday that I thought I would come on and share with you guys. I'm gonna jumble my words today. It's just gonna happen. Okay, so yesterday was Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday. And I didn't really want to go anywhere, but I needed to go run a few errands, and my husband had asked me already if I wanted to have lunch with him, so I was like, sure, of course, I'll already be downtown anyways. So before I met him at lunch, I was like, I'm gonna run to Goodwill and I'm gonna look for a chair to put in my little corner, which is actually the chair I'm sitting in. I got this thing and it rocks and it moves, which could prove to be not good for video taking. But I got this chair, and there's a story that goes with this chair. So I go to Goodwill and I'm walking around and I didn't see anything at first. And all the way in like the back corner of the store, there's this chair, and it's like a cream color, big, comfy chair. And it rocks and moves, so I didn't want to try and move it on my own. So I go up to the counter with I think I had 3 other things. And I tell the lady, no, I really want that chair that's in the back, but I was scared to move it on my own. So she's like, don't worry, we'll go get it. So they go and they get it and they bring it up and put it by the door, and it was $20, like 20 bucks, you guys, for a chair. And all it needed was to be cleaned. So I steam cleaned it and now it's beautiful. So they're like, well, do you know our policy? And I was like, what policy? And they were like, well, we can't help you load the chair. And I was like, okay. I think I can get the chair in the back of my Excursion. Which, if you guys hear me call it Deuce, that is its name. We name our cars. We have Deuce and Dixie. Little side note. So the lady's like, well, I'm going to get a dolly and I will get the chair out on the sidewalk for you to make it easier. So I'm like, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your help. So I go and I get my truck and I pull it up and I open all the back doors up, and I go and I lay the 3rd row down and flip it up so I can fit the chair, knowing that I have to go to the grocery store later. And I don't want to have to put stuff in all the different parts of the car. So I'm in the truck and I'm laying it all down. And I'm like, okay, if I can just get the chair up on the back bumper, then I can kind of just like lift and slide, you know? You guys know you've done this before. You have to get like all strategic. So I start like backing out of the truck to get the chair, and there are 2 people holding it. And the Goodwill employee is like, don't even try and pick it up. These 2 people, you know, I asked them if they would help you, and they loaded this chair in my truck. They don't know me. They don't even work anywhere. They were just hanging out for the day and put this chair in my truck for me, so I didn't have to do it. And I was shocked, and I was so overcome with joy that I could not believe that 2 complete strangers, well, technically 3 if you count the Goodwill employee, would take that much time and energy to help me get this chair in my truck. So I get in my truck so I can go meet my husband for lunch, and I am like overwhelmed with happiness knowing that people with kind and loving hearts do still exist. I mean, if you watch the news or anything, you see how hateful people can be. So I go to lunch with my husband and I'm telling him this story, and he was like, that is such a blessing. I'm so glad that somebody was there to help you. And we're both just like, oh, right? I mean, it was amazing. So we leave lunch and he goes back to work, and I'm like, well, I have to run to the grocery store. Now this grocery store is my favorite grocery store. They have everything that I could ever need for my family. And I'm not going to name said grocery store because what happened involved an employee. And I don't want to create drama. I guess. Okay, so I go into the grocery store, and this store, normally I walk in the front door and I'm like, yay! And I get all excited. I walked in the door and I was just kind of like, ugh. Like, everything in that store just felt like it was like pressing down. Do you guys know that feeling where like you walk in somewhere and you're just like, ugh. And had I not needed to get the things I needed, I probably would have left. So I'm walking around the store, and I am that person in the store that smiles and that helps you if you need it and says hi. And I am always a believer that has to show kindness at all times. I want people to know that they are cared about, and have, even if that's those 2 seconds when they're walking by me is the only good moment in their day. Like, I want people to feel that. I want them to know that there are people who care about them. So I get everything I need, and I'm pushing my buggy, which is now full at this point and so heavy, back to the checkout. And I find a checkout and there's only one person and they're already like paying. So I'm like, yay, I don't have to wait. So I'm, putting this stuff up on the counter, on the conveyor belt, the thing. And I hear this lady, and she's got the ash on her forehead, for Ash Wednesday, which I do not, that's a whole different, I don't celebrate. And the lady that had been in front of me in line that was paying, she was like, what is this on your forehead? I've never seen that before. What is that? So I'm listening now, and the lady's like, oh, it's for Ash Wednesday, and, it represents the 40 days that Jesus spent in the wilderness, and, it ends on Easter, which we don't celebrate, to, his resurrection. And so I'm just kind of like, going with it, and the other lady that was in front of me, she was like, well, I kind of don't understand what you're, I don't understand the meaning. So the lady with the thing on her forehead, she's actually an employee at this grocery store. And so she goes kind of a little bit more into detail, but it's still not like connecting and making any sense. And then she hits the last sentence. So now, mind you, I'm just putting my stuff up on the belt. I haven't even said anything. And she was like, yeah, we do this because people like her killed Jesus. And I was like, wait, what? Did I hear that right? And the lady that's in front of me now, she's like, oh my gosh. Did you really just say that? So I turn around, not like... turn around and I'm like, excuse me? Were you referring to me? And she was like, well, yes, you Jewish people are the ones who killed Jesus. And I was like, I didn't know I was there. Like, kind of making light of it because, like, how do you react to that? So I was like, first of all, I was like, Jesus is my savior. Like, I love Yeshua. And she was like, well, you're wearing that star thingy around your neck. Talking about my necklace. And it's got the Star of David and a cross. And I was like, well, that's the Star of David. And that's from the Bible that you also read if you're a follower of Jesus. If you love God, that's the same Bible you read. And she was like, well, I'm not Jewish. And I was like, neither am I. I was like, I am the daughter of Abba. He loves me. My necklace and my head covering, right? So I'm just kind of like, whoa, like I'm still in shock at this point. So the lady in front of me, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She was like, I hope you were not too terribly offended. And I was like, it's fine. I kind of get this all the time in the small community I live in because I'm the only one who covers my head. Unless it's like a fashion, So I turn around and I put in my numbers and everything and for rewards because Mama's got to save that money. And the cashier, she's like, I'm so sorry. She knows me. I go in this grocery store a lot. She's like, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to call the manager? And I was like, no, it's fine. I was like, I don't want her to lose her job because of her biased opinions on my head covering. It's fine. I'm not physically bleeding. I'm not, I was like, I've already made a mental note to pray for her as soon as I get out to my truck. And the cashier was like, wait, you're gonna pray for her? And I was like, something obviously has to be living in her to make her lash out. Like, she essentially lashed out at me because of how I looked. I hadn't even said anything. So I get, like, the shock is still like, huh. And I get back out to my truck and I load all my groceries in and I get in and I say some quick, well, not quick prayers. I was probably sitting there for about 10 minutes praying that whatever this feeling that was in that store would go away, and that her eyes and whatever struggle she is in would just be washed and her eyes would be opened. Because there's so much around us that we don't see, we don't know. And so I finished praying and I called my husband. And I was like, hey, lover, that's what I call him. He's lover. I was like, hey, lover, I was like, I have to tell you something. And he was like, oh my gosh, you were blessed again. And I was like, no. And so I tell him the whole story. And he was, of course, my husband, his knee-jerk reaction as my protector is he got pretty upset. And he was like, I'm going to call the store. And I was like, no. I was like, don't do that. I don't want her to get in trouble. So he was like, well, I don't understand. Like, you're upset. And I was like, I'm shocked and I'm kind of hurt that somebody would jump at me in that way. I was like, but I'm not mad at her. I'm not mad at her feelings. I mean, we're all entitled to our opinion, no matter how hateful or hurtful or wrong they are. And he was like, I can't believe, your day was ruined by one person. And I was like, I never said my day was ruined. So in talking to my husband, I was like, well, there were the people who this morning who were so kind and blessed me so much. And then, yes, Betty Lou, I love you. My dog's right here, if you see her little ears. And then there was the lady at the grocery store who kind of like attacked. And I was like, the Bible and everything it teaches tells me that I have to love them the same. Those three people and the people at the restaurant, I have to love them just as much and just as equally as I love the woman in the grocery store who attacked me. And I have to love the woman in the grocery store just as much as I love those people who blessed me. And he was like, wait, what? So, okay, Betty Lou, yes, I love you so much. So in Luke 6:27 through 28, it says, but I say to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for the ones who mistreat you. So I was like, okay, moving on. I had said a prayer for her and I didn't feel anything towards her except sadness. I was pretty sad because she was broken, obviously. So, and then we all know in Matthew 22, Jesus gives us our greatest commandment in verse 37 when they're trying to trip him up. And he says that the greatest commandment is to love God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your body, all your strength. And then he goes on to say, and the second is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. Well, no matter what that neighbor does, we still have to love them as we would ourselves. I mean, if I walking across my house and I stub my toe, or I'm chopping up vegetables and I cut my finger, I'm going to be like, ouch, that hurt, and I'm going to fix myself and move on. Well, if my neighbor kicks me in my foot or cuts my finger when we're trying to do something, am I going to freak out on them? I did it to myself too. So talking to my husband, and both of us were kind of growing in that moment in what we needed to be doing and what Abba wanted us to do. And a lot of times we focus on the negative. I could have let that one encounter change my whole entire day, but I didn't. The happiness and the love and the joy and everything that I feel in every day, I didn't let that go because one person was being hateful. And I wanted you guys to know that, there are good people, there are kind people who don't care what you're wearing, who don't care what you look like or what faith you are. They just care because you're a human being. So I would encourage all of you to not let the negative affect you. And if something does happen, someone is hateful, someone is rude, someone is just unkind, pray for them. Maybe that's what they need. Even if you pray after the fact, because sometimes you praying can escalate the issue a little bit more. But pray for them. Pray that, they see the love of Abba as well. But don't let that negative in. Keep it out. It was an experience. It was a few seconds or minutes of your day. Keep it out. Forgive, move on. Because we are also called to forgive. So I hope that this little story encourages you guys to see things a little differently. And I hope you all have a blessed day. Go out and lift others up like we always do. And I will see you very soon. Bye.